Welcome back to RFD Profit Watch. I'm DeLoss Jahnke, joined through technology by Nick Westgerdes. He is the president-elect of the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisals. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great today, DeLoss. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about, so you're in Ogle County, in Rochelle area, and the firm is New Roots Farm Brokerage. Is that yours?
Yes, that's correct. I ventured out away from a large national firm last summer and started up my own farm real estate brokerage and management company.
How long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business roughly 15 years as a whole.
I'm always intrigued by, doesn't matter what the profession is, you step off that ledge and go into business by yourself. How long ago was it?
Just about a year ago.
Okay.
We're just approaching a year.
Even day one, okay, I got my own place now. What do we do, and how do we build the business?
Yeah, the good news is that the business is built. I'm ready to take on clientele. I'm excited about the future and the prospects.
Okay. All right. A study that really shows growth in what is managed in Illinois. Is that something that you did? Is that something you contracted, or tell us about the study that you did?
Sure. The study was done internally by the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. It's something that we put together roughly every 10 years. Very confidential process. Everything's kind of done internally here with our executive director, Carol Mary, kind of leading point. And he tabulates all the information and then destroys the originals.
Oh, wow. And so how much growth in 10 years?
Yeah, it's been pretty staggering. We're looking at roughly 156% increase in managed acres since the last time the survey was done 10 years ago, and about a 218% increase in managed properties since 2016 as well.
Wow. Okay. 2.7 million acres managed. So I'm thinking about when the numbers come out, and it's usually maybe 10.5 million and 11 million or so, one's corn, one's soybeans every year. So 21.5 million acres just of those two crops. There'd be some other land in there as well. But when you're talking about then 2.7 million acres managed, that's, that growing, and that's a pretty big percentage actually.
Yeah, to keep it simple, as you drive up and down the countryside, about 1 out of every 10 farms is touched by our organization.
If I am using a manager, am I using all of my acres necessarily? Could there be a case where, I have a few fields but only some of them are professionally managed?
That does happen at times. Again, our primary audience for clientele is typically going to be that absentee landowner, so somebody that owns a piece of farmland but doesn't operate it themselves. In those cases, once the relationship is built and strong enough, we tend to kind of oversee or manage all of that person's property, but do have situations at times where we just have a part of it.
How has the growth has it resulted, or how has the membership changed in 10 years? Has the growth in the land also, do you see a reflection in growth of how many people are managing it?
We have seen some growth in membership over the last 10 years. Here as of late, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag as we have a older generation, if you will, that's starting to retire out. And in not all cases, those people are getting replaced just because of the increases in efficiencies and technology that we've seen over the last 10 years. Upgrades in mapping technology and AI technology have made our business a lot more efficient. So in many cases, we're managing more with less.
Okay. So how many more? Is there an average or percentage of how many the average person might be managing?
Well, as of our current survey, actually, we were at about 37 properties per manager. That is technically up from 2016, where we had about 23 properties per manager.
So almost doubled, pretty close to doubled.
Roughly, yep. Mm-hmm.
Is there a point by chance? Is 40, is 50? Is there a magic number in there where you're like, okay, or for even for the firm's sake, like you said before, you worked for a national firm. Is there a point where or even as an individual, you say, okay, this is the client base that I want to have. I don't know if I could take on, we'd have to have quite a talk before we take on another customer.
Yeah, as I was a young farm manager in a large company system, over the first 5 years or so, I roughly doubled the size of my territory. I got up to around 70 farms that I was managing. And here in the state of Illinois, if you're managing that many farms and also perhaps selling some farms as well, that's quite a workload. I think people are typically crying uncle at about that point.
Yeah, I was going to say that takes a lot of hustle to get to 70. My goodness. For you then, and have you already had this question? Because I'm sure with your ability, obviously, to attract clients, then hopefully you have a pretty good load right now. And then how you manage growth. Like, have you already gotten to a point where you say, my goodness, do I need another employee? And, how all that would go into bringing somebody else on.
Yeah, so it's, in this line of work, we're not selling vacuum cleaners where everybody needs one in their house.
Yeah.
And so it's a very unique service that we offer. Me personally, I just recently locked down my first consultation client with my new business. Do not have any farms that I'm professionally managing at the moment, but do have some prospects in the pipeline.
Gotcha. I could use a vacuum cleaner for my house if you do know somebody. So, yeah, send them my way. So thinking about this growth then, 2.7 million acres managed, 37 properties per manager. I guess one thing would just be why, or what are a couple of trends that you think has led to some of that growth?
Yeah, we're definitely an industry on the rise, as the survey suggests. In the state of Illinois, very strong investment characteristics of the farmland within the state, and we also dealing with a lot of generational change. Current estimates are that roughly 75% of Illinois farmland is absentee owned. These modern day owners are often far removed from the farm and do require some local assistance to understand what local rental rates consist of, and to have somebody watch over the property, make sure that fertilizing is taking place as it should be, and pH is being balanced out, and weeds are under control. We really serve as the local boots on the ground for the non-operating landowner. And as we look into the future, we do have a forecast of seeing additional growth of potentially a 25% increase in managed acres over the next 10 years, perhaps another 40% increase in clients over the next 10 years. And a lot of that has to do with this estimate that's floating around of roughly 50% of farmland is going to have an ownership change in the next 20 years. And a lot of that farmland that changes ownership, it's going to simply stay within a farming family. But we all know that there's going to be a lot of opportunities as well, that inherited owner is going to have the tough decision to make. Do they keep the farm and manage it on themselves? Do they reach out to somebody for professional guidance and assistance, like someone from our membership group? Or do they perhaps sell the property, which is always an option also?
All right, Nick Westgerdes. He is president-elect of the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. Also need to fit some appraiser questions in here, too. We'll continue our conversation more after the break here on RFD Profit Watch. Welcome back to RFD Profit Watch. I'm DeLoss Jahnke and Nick Westgerdes, Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers, president-elect, talking about changes in ag, why more is going into farm management, especially as land changes hands from one generation to the next. So like you're talking about, there'd be an ownership change. It now goes to the next generation, but that generation says, I'm not doing it that way, so I'm going to hire somebody to take on those things I don't want to do.
Correct. We handle all aspects of the operation, depending upon how that property is being leased out. We handle all the boring paperwork, the field inspections, and everything else.
If you could maybe speak to the importance of the association and the membership there, like if I can manage my farm that I'm part of, I could probably also manage somebody down the road.
Yeah, so we live and work in this environment every day. So we're not jumping in and out as the need permits. We're here every day, grinding in this environment, learning about the markets and kind of where things are at. And of course, we have a accreditation process, not only for farm managers, but for appraisers as well, where you can go through a program over the course of multiple years and eventually become certified as a accredited farm manager.
All right. So now, as this growth has taken place, have there been changes in how this is managed? For example, how much of it is just a straight cash rent deal? Have those trends changed over time?
We've definitely seen a uptick in cash rent over the years, since I've been in the business anyway for the last 15 years or so. In the state of Illinois, we're as high as 50% cash rent is what the survey suggests. About 28% of those cash rent leases would be variable or have a flex or bonus calculation built in. About 22% of those would be just a flat cash rent. Crop share leases, the remaining few percentage points would be things like custom farming and those types of things. It's also certainly region specific. As you get up in my neck of the woods in the northern part of the state, the farmland isn't quite as volatile as the southern part of the state. So we have a lot more cash rent up north, and they have quite a bit more crop share down in the southern part of the state.
Is there much difference if I'm thinking about a variable setup? Is that something where both sides are taking on risk?
Yeah, the way that we like to look at the variable leases in most cases is that we like to start that lease off at a really nice, comfortable point for both the landowner and the farmer, and then allow that bonus calculation to do its thing at the end of the year. And if yields were really good, or if prices changed and prices became very solid, we basically structure things so that that landowner is able to receive a little bit more rent at the end of the year. And in most cases, we find that farmers are acceptable of that idea. They'd much rather pay a little bit more in a good year than have you really raise their rent the following year because they had a good year the year before.
By the way, appraisal members completed more than 1,700 appraisals in 2025, total value close to $6.5 billion. What would be I assume is some of that related to auctions or changing hands of why those appraisals would take place?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the appraisers. We can't forget the appraisers in our group. We are very heavy farm management.
Yeah.
We're about 70% farm managers in our group, about 30% appraisers, and that's about 300 members total statewide. From an appraisal perspective, a lot of the appraisal work that our appraisers have been doing lately relates to estate situations, or they're working with a lender. Those are the two main reasons that a lot of the appraisals get completed.
Like I was talking about the workload that the farm manager might have. Do you need more appraisers?
We absolutely do. I highly encourage any young people out there that are thinking about getting into the ag industry to consider both a farm appraisal and farm management as a career path. We're excited to get out to many career fairs later this fall at the different universities throughout the state and meet with students and explain to them about the value of these various career paths. Appraisal is very hard to get into anymore. The barrier of entry, the amount of education that you have to do and testing that you have to do over multiple years to become a certified general appraiser, it's enough that it's turned some off from the industry. And so we definitely have a need there going forward.
Okay, I was thinking about some of those personality tests you take, and then it tells you what careers you might be suited. I don't know if artificial intelligence knows what a farm manager is. So like, what are my skills if I'm wanting to go down one of those paths?
One thing that really protects us from AI as an industry is the personal touch points with clientele and that actual boots on the ground aspect. You could, of course, assign a computer system to trying to guesstimate the value of a property based upon different analytics figures, sale prices from the past, productivity index points, and those types of things. But ultimately, you still have to have that boots on the ground that is there in person, able to look at the property and see things that the technology cannot.
I just wonder, if someone is in college and they're taking stats class or whatever they're taking, and they think, you know what, maybe I could be an appraiser. What skill would I have where someone would say, you know what, you ought to give this a consideration?
I'll relate it maybe to myself for a moment, and that I'm very analytical and scientific in the way that I go about things. I'm very detail oriented. I would have made a good appraiser. If I could turn back the clock, maybe that's something I would have got involved with earlier in my career. But those types of attributes, people that are detail oriented, people that like to dig into numbers and details, and people that like to take control and kind of lead a situation, are all people that would really fit well within this industry.
Yeah. Maybe some thick skin to go along with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes you get it from both sides, not just the farmer, but the landowner as well. So you got to have some thick skin.
Yeah. All right. Fascinating. Appreciate the conversation, Nick. Thank you very much.
Yeah, one thing I would add quick, DeLoss, is that if anybody's interested in seeing a copy of our survey results, they are available for download at our website at ISPFMRA.org.
Nick Westgerdes, President-elect, Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. And that's RFD Profit Watch. I'm DeLoss Jahnke saying watch your in.
You have been listening to RFD Profit Watch here on the RFD Radio Network, the #1 ag radio network in Illinois.